everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm delighted to be here with Teresa Slack, CEO and co-founder of Financely, the e-commerce bookkeeping specialists. Teresa also runs an e-commerce academy for accountants and bookkeepers who are looking to grow their skills and niche into e-commerce. Her academy offers an amazing community with expert guidance. You'll find the link in the description below if you'd like to join. We also have a promo code you can use, NEW20. Teresa, thanks for being here today. Can you tell us a bit more about your academy?
Hi, Elspeth. It's really nice to be here, and thank you for inviting me, A2X, to talk all about payment gateways. So yeah, the Ecommerce Training Academy is designed specifically for accounting professionals who want to get great at managing the complexities of e-commerce accounting. We have live training, you get resources, you can watch recordings, and we have a whole community of e-commerce accounting professionals all working together to solve all the wonderful complexities we deal with every day in e-commerce.
Thanks for that, Teresa. I've been to one of your webinars and I really enjoyed it, so highly recommended. In this video, as Teresa mentioned, we're going to provide a step-by-step guide for reconciling Klarna and Sezzle in QuickBooks Online. So I'm going to hand over to Teresa now and she's going to give us a walkthrough.
Awesome, thank you. Okay. All right, let's start out by talking about Sezzle and Klarna. These two are very common payment gateways that are actually installment apps. So they allow customers to purchase and pay in 4 small, easy installments. We find this can really help our e-commerce clients increase their sales, especially if they're slightly larger items, they're $100, $200, when they can put, hey, 4 easy payments of $20, $25, we find there's less cart abandonment. Both of these payment gateways attach to the e-commerce platform as a payment method. Klarna is really, and so is Sezzle, a buy now, pay later kind of an app. And the wonderful thing about these apps is they pay out the full amount to your client's bank account, and they take on the risk of collecting those interim payments. So first let's have a bit of a walkthrough of Klarna, and then we'll do a walkthrough of Sezzle. When you first log into your client's Klarna account, this is what the home screen will look like. Down the side, you'll see orders, and this is where you can view a list of all the orders by a specific time period. The Settlements tab, this is where we will see all the payouts from Klarna to the client's bank account, and it's really the main section as accounting professionals that we tend to hang out in. And then there is a point of sale section if your client is using a POS system. The settlement screen shows the list of payouts to the client's bank account, and in this case, the payouts are done by the order. Now, if this was a large volume client, these payouts would be for a bulk of orders. But this particular example, they only have a couple of orders, so it is paid out for each order. What we want to do is download the transaction data of the processed settlements, and then you would filter it by the time period you're looking at. So for example, we might look at a month at a time. This is what the report looks like when you download it. The report gives you everything you need to reconcile your Klarna clearing account that you will have set up in your client's books. The payout that Klarna does to the bank is less the processing fees. If you're using the A2X integration app, the deposit in the bank will not match the entry from A2X because A2X doesn't actually know what the fees that Klarna is charging are, that they would have deducted from the payout. They only have the full order detail from Shopify, for example. Therefore, you're going to use a clearing account for the lump sum entry from A2X. Then you would set up a transfer from the Klarna clearing account to the client's bank account for the net amount of the deposit. Then you would record an expense entry to record the Klarna processing fees, and you would indicate that expense paid from your Klarna clearing account. And that will zero back out our clearing account. Now let's take a quick look at Sezzle. When you log into your client's Sezzle account, this is what the home screen looks like. And down the side, we have our orders. And again, much like with Klarna, this is where you can see a list of each of the individual orders by a certain time period. Settlements, this is where we're going to see the payouts from Sezzle to the business. And again, it's the main area that accounting professionals tend to spend time in. Now, the pending settlements are used to display funds that are still in the holding period. Processed payouts are those that have been processed into your client's Sezzle withdrawal account. And then you'll see in the side panel there, withdrawal account. Your withdrawal account is the holding balance that all of the client's funds will go to before they are paid out to the bank account. So they kind of go into holding, then they go into the withdrawal account, then they're paid out to the bank. The current balance is the sum of the next withdrawal amount and all future settlements that your client is owed. The settlement screen shows the list of payouts to the client's bank account. Now, in this case, the payouts are done on each order, but if this was a high volume, again, there would be multiple orders in that payout. And we want to download the transaction data of the processed settlements and then filter for the period you want and click download. So this is what your Sezzle report will look like. Now we've added some highlights and some sums for you. This report gives you everything that you're going to need to reconcile the Klarna clearing account that will be set up in your client's books. We're going to go over that shortly. Let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons of using a payment gateway like Sezzle or Klarna. In my opinion, the pros are both of these apps have really good reporting, which allows you to properly enter, record, and reconcile entries on Sezzle and Klarna. For your client, it's super easy to integrate either of these into their e-commerce platform as a payment processor. I have found they handle multi-currency sales without any issues. And they really do help your client to get more sales, and it helps with cash flow because they get paid out the full amount less the processing fees. And then it's up to these apps to go back and collect those installment payments. And it has been shown to reduce cart abandonment. On the con side, now the fees that Klarna or Sezzle are charging are not integrated into the sales entry that comes in from A2X into QuickBooks Online. So you need to record those fees manually. And there is no detailed tax information in Klarna or Sezzle, which is actually completely fine. We don't want to get sales tax information from our payment processors. We want to get that information from the e-commerce platform, like Shopify. Klarna and Sezzle do not connect directly into QuickBooks Online, so you are wanting to use an integration app like A2X, or you'll have to do the work manually. And I do find that the fees for these apps are a little bit higher because they are paying out the full amount and taking on the risk of collecting those installment payments. So when we look at kind of the challenges or how things connect for these two apps, number one I want to point out is sales tax, and I mentioned it previously. At times, a business owner might think I can enter my sales from the deposits that are coming in from Klarna or Sezzle. That will not work well because these apps don't have any sales tax information. You'll want to make sure you are bringing in all of your sales data, including sales tax, from the e-commerce platform, not from the payment processor. And, to get that detailed information, Shopify, for example, it has all that information for you. It is charging the correct amounts of taxes. So that is where you want to get the information. You can also use the integration app A2X. You're going to connect A2X to your e-commerce platform. It's going to pull in the right sales, fees, discounts, taxes, and the payment processor information and bring that nicely into the books. And as I've said, when it comes to connections, neither of these apps connect directly into QuickBooks. You're going to want to use an app like A2X to bring that data in automatically, or you're doing a lot of manual work, which we don't really want to do. Honestly, both of these gateways are fantastic. They do a lot of good for your clients as long as you understand how they work. Now, let's look at reconciling, shall we? When it comes to reconciling either of these gateways, we need to consider what integration app are we using and how does it affect the reconciliation process. If you're using A2X, A2X is doing lump sum journal entries that are created based on all the sales on Klarna or Sezzle, and it will summarize it either daily, weekly, or monthly. You get to choose how often you want it to summarize. The journal entries are not based on the payouts that are being received from Klarna or from Sezzle. And because of this, you're going to need to set up either a Klarna or a Sezzle clearing account in the books. We cannot map A2X directly to the bank because the amounts are going to be different. Therefore, we put the summary amounts into the Klarna clearing account. A2X is mapped that it's going to drop the gross amount of those sales into a Klarna or Sezzle clearing. Then what we recommend you do is you set up a bank rule in the QBO bank feeds that will automatically transfer funds from the clearing account into the bank account to match the deposit that has been received. Then you've pulled your reports from either of these platforms. You're going to record an expense entry to record the processing fees, and you would mark that expense paid from the Klarna or Sezzle clearing account. Once you've done that, your clearing account should go back to zero and you are ready to start reconciling. So to do this, let's just walk through the steps that you would take. First, you're going to log into Klarna. You're going to go to the Settlements tab. Then you're going to choose the time frame that you want to look at. For example, February 1st to February 28th. Klarna is going to take a minute. It's going to generate a report, and you can then download it as a CSV or a PDF. Once the report is generated, we focus on three main sections that I'm showing here on the screen: the subtotal, the charges, and the payouts. Once you've downloaded that report, the process is this. A2X will have sent over all the journal entries into the books, and now we're going to go straight to reconciling. When you're using this method, you're not reconciling to each individual order that you would see in the Klarna portal. You're using the A2X settlement balances. On your QBO reconciliation screen, you're going to enter a zero ending balance in your Klarna clearing. Your opening balance should already be zero. The total fees should be entered as expenses that would have been paid from your Klarna clearing. You're going to check off all the A2X journal entries. You're going to check off the expense entries for the fees. You'll check off the transfers to the bank. And in a perfect world, you're going to reconcile nicely to zero. But if it doesn't reconcile, you can always drill into the transactions and look at the details, both on the A2X entry and in Klarna, to figure out, why isn't everything clearing? So in this example here that I'm showing on the screen, I've checked off my transfers and my A2X entries, and I'm out of balance by $23.43. Why? Well, I forgot to enter the processing fees. So once I record my expense entry for $23.43 and check that off, this account will balance nicely to zero. To validate that the total sales on Klarna are lining up, you can use the total deposits that we're seeing here on the reconciliation screen. That amount there of $457.67 should match up perfectly to the Klarna report that you downloaded. With this, you can feel, all right, I have reconciled all my sales that were paid with Klarna, and my clearing account has also been reconciled back to zero. Now let's walk through Sezzle. For A2X, again, it's doing those lump sum entries that are daily, weekly, or monthly. So here is the report that we would have downloaded from Sezzle. These entries shown in column J should equal the total A2X sales entries. Column L should be the total fees. And column N gives you the net amount, and that should be the amount of the payout to the bank. So the A2X entries are going to drop all the sales into your Sezzle clearing account. Then again, you'll set up a bank rule to automatically do transfers from Sezzle clearing into the bank to match the deposits. You're going to record an expense entry for the Sezzle processing fees that we see here in column L. And once you've checked all of those things off, everything should be cleared out of your Sezzle clearing account and you'll have all the right information. So just as a reminder to grab the Sezzle report that you need, you're going to log into your client's Sezzle account, go to Settlements, download the transaction data, choose the time frame, and hit download. Then you'll have a report that looks just like the one on the screen. So for A2X, you've gone in, you've downloaded your Sezzle report. A2X has sent all the entries over for you. You then go in and create your expense entry. You go to your reconciliation screen. You're going to check off all of the A2X journal entries. You'll check off your expense entries and the transfers to the bank, and it should be zero. But again, I'm out by $32.91 because I forgot to enter the expense. So we want to make sure we enter that expense. And once you've checked everything off, you should be back to zero. And just like with the Klarna one, you can use the total deposit amount shown here, $528.88, to make sure that that lines up perfectly with column J under the capture item on the Sezzle report. So that's our process for managing both Sezzle and Klarna.
Thanks so much, Teresa. That was super helpful walkthrough for us to see how it all works in QuickBooks. We just want to ask you a few concluding questions before we wrap up around the process that you've outlined today. The first question I've got for you is, how often should you reconcile these gateways, and what are some of the best practices to follow?
Sure, that is a great question. I recommend that you do this process every single month. Don't let it pile up for a whole year, because if something goes out, trying to review an entire year worth of entries can be incredibly challenging. So do it every month. Make it part of your month-end process, like you would reconcile your clients' bank accounts, their credit cards. All their clearing accounts should be reviewed and reconciled every month as well. And for best practices, I always recommend that you save all of your reports. So every month you're going to download your Klarna report, you're going to download your Sezzle report, you're going to go through this process of validating and making sure everything is correct, and then save those reports, save a copy of your reconciliation reports, because at times with e-commerce, wonderfully wild things can happen, and I have seen it where I've reconciled and locked everything down, and 3 months later when I go to reconcile, something in the works went back and made entries into a month I've already done. So by having copies of the saved reports of what it looked like when you did it can be incredibly helpful if you run into a challenge like that.
That's a really good tip. So the second question, just to follow up with on that, is what are some of the common issues that do come up during these reconciliations, and how can you troubleshoot them?
Yes. Okay, so I would say the most common thing that I see is people getting confused over the timing of things. Because you might have sales, we'll use Shopify as an example. There could be sales on the last day of the month that the client chose to pay using Klarna or Sezzle. But that payout is not going to come at the same time. It is likely to come in the following month. So what you may find is when you go to reconcile, you will have your A2X journal entries recording the sales, but what you won't have is a payout or a transfer to the bank, because that's going to happen in the following month. So you just need to understand that at the beginning and the end of the month, you may have carryover from a previous period. That's a pretty common thing. And that's not that it's wrong. That is the truth. We don't have a payout yet. So you might have something uncleared because it's paying out in the next month. And then the other challenge is, honestly, when business owners go back and make changes to orders from previous months. So we had an order from January, it was paid with Klarna, and then the business owner has maybe done an exchange of a product or a partial refund on a product. And often that can cause challenges depending on the integration app you're using. Now, one of the wonderful things about A2X is it handles order edits beautifully, but a lot of the other ones don't, and they will go back in time and make adjustments to things that have already been reconciled. So that I find is a fairly common issue, is adjustments, but I'm so happy that A2X has a fabulous process for that and puts those edits in the correct period.
That's great. I mean, we see that a lot with Shopify order edits being an issue that people run into. So that's also really helpful information for people watching this video. Okay, so I just want to say thanks so much for your time today, Teresa. That was really useful. Just a reminder that if you'd like to sign up for the e-commerce academy and learn more about reconciling payment gateways and everything else you need to know about e-commerce bookkeeping, then don't forget to join. You can check out the link in the description and remember to use the promo code NEW20 to join. Thanks again for watching.